My husband and I have 5 kids and our 2 youngest are autistic. And here's 12 signs of masking autism. So what's masking anyway? I like the National Autistic Society's definition. Dr. Hannah Belcher says to mask or to camouflage means to hide or disguise parts of oneself in order to better fit in with those around you. It is an unconscious strategy all humans develop whilst growing up in order to connect with those around us. Did you catch she said all humans? So on some level, you have masked, and I have. We'll get into that later. But what if you're a parent and you may have an autistic child, but it's hard to tell because they might be masking? Well, that comes down to why in the world would it be important to know whether or not your child was masking? Well, listen to this quote from a parent who commented on our channel. This was my son, but he was only diagnosed ADHD for years. He's 15 and he was just diagnosed with ASD. He missed all the support and intervention he could have gotten to help him. So people can go for years masking their autism and get a delayed diagnosis. Here's what an autistic adult says about the experience. There are a ton of things that I'm finding out about myself, who I am, because for 19 years I've masked so much I don't know myself. This can cause depression and burnout. We don't want that for our kids or anyone. And at the end of this video, we're going to be sharing the biggest and most common mistake that parents make with their autistic kids. Tell me in the comments if you think I'm correct on this one. If not, what's a bigger mistake? The first sign that parents need to be aware of is if your child seems to have a different personality when they come home as to when they are in a social environment like school. Now, this is actually a good sign and a bad sign at the same time. It's a sign that they're masking, that they're trying to pretend to be someone else while they're with their friends or peers or in a school setting. But the fact that they're choosing to be more themselves when they're home means that they most likely feel that home is a more safe place where they can really just relax and be themselves. So you as a parent might notice that there's different personality traits that they let people see in different situations. Sign 2. If you see your child have an emotional outburst right after a social event. Does this happen often? Does it happen every time that they have to go out and forced to be social with people, maybe their peers or family members or neighbors, and then when they come home it's emotional? Or maybe it's while they're there being social, trying to fit in. Could it possibly be that there's expectations put on my child to act a certain way and mask their autistic traits? And when they try to do that, it's just hard.
It's too hard. It's too hard.
This autistic adult on our channel commented, I don't like masking, and it's really painful for me. Another autistic adult says, I'm in a couple of social groups for autistic adults. I'm diagnosed with autism myself, and I've never met an autistic adult with anything positive to say about masking. Those that can and do mask often seem to have the worst mental health issues, myself included. Of course, many autistic people are unable to mask, and it tends to be those of us with lower or moderate support needs that can. I can mask unless I'm distressed, which happens quite a lot, and then I lose the ability. Overall, masking has caused me to feel that I have lost much of my identity, and parts of my mask are now ingrained, leaving me feel trapped inside myself. In general, I believe masking should be discouraged in children and adults alike. Unfortunately, we live in a world where there exist ignorant and abusive people who judge behaviors that are unusual to them and do not accept differences.
This is different.
Third sign, if you see your child come home and they're just wiped out, exhausted after school or after a day where they are having to be social, even if they're out with their friends or peers and they come home and they are just tired, they have to sleep, they're just exhausted, super, super tired. Consider this. What if your child is masking their autistic traits all day long?
I'm tired.
Of course they're going to be exhausted by the time they get home. A parent of an autistic child commented about what happened to her daughter. They said, we also missed that she was using her intelligence to mask problems she couldn't work out. She read and wrote early, but the masking was the main thing with her. She would hold it all together all day, but lose it at home because masking and overthinking all day was exhausting. She also mimics people when she doesn't know what to do in a situation. And that brings us to our next sign, mimicking or mirroring. We all do this probably without thinking to a certain extent. And you can help support your child by encouraging them to share their own opinion and not just copy someone else's because it might be socially more acceptable. Especially if you see your child practicing facial expressions in the mirror and they're mimicking other facial expressions that they've seen other people do, they shouldn't be expected to do this. You as a parent can help support your child. Practice with them on what they really want to say, on how they really want to act, so that they can build confidence being themselves and not someone else. Sign 5. If you see your child not stim in a social situation or with a peer, maybe someone walks in and they're going like this, or they're looking down, they're reading their book, they're engaged in their special interests, and then all of a sudden someone walks in and they stop stimming. They stop rocking back and forth. They stop shaking their hands. They stop playing or fiddling or whatever it is that they're doing that soothes them. Because this is a social situation now and there's different expectations, so they have to hide and suppress that part of themselves. How is that healthy? That is a sign of masking. With our 2 younger sons, Simon and Ezra, we always let them stim in their home. I want them to feel comfortable and safe in their own home. If you don't know what stimming is, I actually made a video right here, 12 examples of autism stimming. We've already noticed the unwanted attention from people when we take our kids out, mainly because of their stimming. As a mother, I really just don't let this bother me.
I don't care what you smell!
And as they grow up, I want them to know that I don't expect them to suppress their autistic traits. They can if they want to, and I feel like if they do, that should be their choice and their choice alone, and not feel pressured. Do you think we should suppress behavior of autistic traits, especially in children, or do you think that we should create a world that helps support autistic children so they don't have to mask? Tell me in the comments which one you agree with. And to get a better idea of what it could really be like for your child, listen to this quote. Masking goes far beyond just hiding stim. It can also involve spending a lot of energy unconsciously processing the social rules that apply to a situation, pre-scripting conversations. Girls often report practicing facial expressions in the mirror, etc. Girls in particular tend to do well enough to avoid diagnosis, but poorly enough to have significant problems in peer relationships. The 6th sign, I'm doing sign language right now. This is actually 6 in sign language. This is 6 in, I don't even know. The 6th sign is scripting. If you see your child pre-script conversations or maybe questions or like compliments that they might use with their peers or teachers in social situations, then that is a sign that they are definitely masking. You can talk to them about why they're pre-scripting, what situations really give them anxiety. You can help pre-script with them if that's what they want to do. But keep in mind, they are masking by pre-scripting. And so you want to encourage them to be their true selves in whatever they're writing. Make sure that they actually are their real opinions and not just something that they're pretending to like or pretending to be. If your child doesn't want to script, then please don't make them do it. Don't put that expectation on them.
I don't want to be in a battle. But waiting on the edge of one I can't escape is even worse.
I'm sure there's more signs in this, so if I miss one, please put it down in the comments. What are some autistic masking that you might find yourself doing? And tell me if it's good or bad. Like, you can definitely serve other people, especially help educate parents and how to help support their children who may be masking and maybe masking too much. Sign 7 is avoiding social interaction. This is an avoidance strategy, right? It's you just avoid it so you don't have to mask because you're expected to, and it's really difficult and it's hard. And so why even go to the birthday party? Why even go to the zoo? It smells like there's all these things, right? And maybe your child doesn't have to go to the zoo. Maybe it's fine that they don't go to the birthday party. But there is a concern when they feel like they can't go to things that they actually do want to go to. And it's important for a parent to find out what that true motive is. Because if your child's just really tired and doesn't want to go to a friend's house, then that's fine. Don't make them go. But what if they do actually want to go to the friend's house, but they're just afraid they're not going to be socially accepted, they're going to have to mask, and it's just too much energy, it's too hard. Why put myself through that masking? I'm just going to avoid it, and I'm going to stay home. Look out for this sign and try to help your child little by little get to the point where they can feel comfortable doing what they want to do. An autistic adult commented on our channel, "The biggest thing for me is I didn't even know I was doing it. I include the times I sat out, excluded or excused myself, or didn't react emotionally. I laughed a lot about stuff, and often as a child, I laughed too much, and I learned to hold a lot of stuff in. I learned to wait or even exclude myself until I was able to give a better response to people. I learned through trial and error, but that was a devil solution. It really wrecked a lot of stuff and relationships in my life." The 8th sign is pretending to understand. This one really breaks my heart whenever I see this, because I just see the person pretending to understand, right? And I just go, you do not have to do this. Please communicate. Like, if you don't get something, speak up, say it, right? And I'm the kind of person who wouldn't judge, who would want that person to understand fully. But there are people who do judge. And they wonder, like, how come we didn't get that joke? Let's say your child is with a group of peers and someone says a joke and everyone laughs, and you see that your child laughs too. And then afterwards, when everything is kind of finished and you see your child walk up to you and say, why was the joke funny? That is masking the fact that they didn't get the joke. And now I've just done a bad thing. I've just stereotyped all autistic people as not understanding jokes. That's not true. This is just one example of a possible scenario where someone who could be autistic could also be masking. And I just want you to look out for that in your own kids to make sure that you don't miss it. After our son Ezra, who has level 3 autism, had a near-death experience, we sold our house, my husband quit his job, and we went into an RV full-time. We actually traveled to all the national parks, and we still post regularly of our unique normal, so please consider subscribing. There's so many things you can do as a parent to help support your child, but make sure that they're okay with whatever you're trying to do to help them feel included, to feel heard and understood, and most importantly, loved unconditionally. We talk a lot about this in our ASD club, where we meet weekly on a video chat. So click the link below and we'll see you there next time. And if you're interested in more one-on-one coaching, we have a link below for that as well. The 9th sign of autistic masking is showing no emotion. If your child day in, day out just looks like they're just a zombie, like no expression on their face, they're just trying to get through the day, it could be that they are spending so much energy and focus on masking that it's difficult to really even respond or act themselves. Listen to this comment from our channel from an autistic adult. In masking and being reserved in times I need to focus, people often interpret that as being aloof or exclusionary or cold. So masking isn't even a great solution in those times. I do need to be really careful to focus during certain work tasks that are dangerous or even while playing video games. People don't understand why and often get mad about it. Yeah?
I had my class store today.
Awesome. Oh my gosh, are those all for me?
Yeah.
Look, I'm wearing my glasses. Thank you for thinking of me.
Because I knew you wanted to.
That's on, right? Can you see if it's on? The next sign is dealing with sensory overload. Usually my kids will stim or ask me for help when they experience sensory overload. But if they mask while this happens, parents and caregivers can easily miss the true cause of the child's behavior. This can look really different on each child, but just imagine your child, if they're having a really hard time with sensory overload in some way, whether it's like touch or smell or taste or sound, you can just see your child just pushing through the intense sensory discomfort, and they're not letting anyone know about it, they're not complaining about it.
Stomach's bothering me a little bit, but I'm fine.
And then they're masking and pretending like they're okay even when they're not. It's really important as a parent or caregiver to notice when your child is pushing through intense sensory discomfort. My son Simon has been diagnosed with level 1 autism. He has no intellectual delay, and he loves like puzzles and games, and he can play Candyland like no one's business. My son Simon, who's 3 years old, will sit in his car seat and he will point up at the vent and he'll plug his nose and he'll yell. And I know exactly what that means. It means I have either the AC on or the heat on, and he doesn't like the smell. I personally don't even notice that there's any kind of smell coming out of the heater, but it drives him crazy. And so what we do, I'll close his vent, the one that is right above him, so that he doesn't have to deal with that smell right on his face. Now imagine Simon growing up. He's 8 years old now in this hypothetical situation I'm making. And his friends are around. And then he starts whining, complaining about the smell. And then his friends go, "It doesn't smell at all. Why are you complaining?" And because of that, he doesn't complain about it. He just goes like this. He tries to do something that helps him push through the uncomfortable situation he's experiencing because of the sensory input. And he doesn't let people know that he's uncomfortable. That's something that a caregiver and parent should recognize with their own child. You should know, okay, my child's really uncomfortable right now. They're masking. They are trying not to point attention to themselves, but they're masking. And for everyone in different situations, it's going to look different. You can kind of think of different things that can help support your child and not bring attention to them necessarily or point them out. here's something to fidget with, or here's a way you can stim, or here's something else you can like put in your mouth, and a Jolly Rancher instead of, we did that. We would give my son Jolly Ranchers to suck on so that he would focus on the smell and the taste of the Jolly Rancher instead of the smell that was uncomfortable. So keep that in mind. The 11th sign of autistic masking is hiding interests. This is probably the one that I relate to the most because I will get hyper-focused and hyper-excited about certain interests, and I'll get a negative response from people. And while I was researching masking, it dawned on me that I actually was masking this. I wasn't sharing with people my true interest or passion about something. So now that I've compared myself to an autistic person, you can comment below how much you hate that I did that. That's okay. But I also want you to know that it is good for parents to find traits in their autistic children that they can relate to. Find them, hold on to them, talk about it. It's not like a neurotypical person and an autistic person have nothing in common. And when you see your child suppress those autistic traits by masking, please help support them by finding a safe place for them, by helping them feel safe, helping them feel heard and unconditionally loved and wanted. Okay, you get the picture.
I love that.
Yes? Can I help you in 15 minutes? I'm actually at the very end. Okay, I'll help you with math. I just need to do this last sign. Okay. And the 12th and last sign of autism masking is burnout or depression. These are things that are very common when people have masked for years. Some people, especially kids, may not even know that they have been masking. Listen to this comment. Masking causes people to suffer from autism burnout. Educate other kids and adults about autism instead to avoid bullying. The homeschool coordinator taught me to mask, and I regret it because it caused me to have issues with burnout. I remember educating myself on autistic burnout from YouTube and told Mom, I relate to people with autistic burnouts, but I've never even masked. She said, oh, yes, you did. Autistic people have issues with self-regulation, and if they don't stim, they are more likely to have meltdowns, whether you mask or not. Masking is so selfless. I consider anything that involves being too good to others without enough self-care is too selfless. Everyone should know that autism is part of who you are, and hiding who you are is not good. Plus, people who mask their autistic traits may be told that they don't look autistic, which is a hurtful phrase. Listen to what this person said on our channel. My parents were pretty much in denial about my initial diagnosis at age 2 until I was diagnosed a second time when I was a freshman in college, before they assumed and even told their relatives that they were actually looking at a combination of shyness and attention-seeking behavior. These comments are so helpful to really see inside the life of an autistic person. The biggest and most common mistake that parents make when their children mask is that they assume that they're trying to get attention or embarrass their parents. Listen to this comment. One thing that parents of autistic children need to remember is to not accuse them of intentionally embarrassing or intentionally humiliating them in public, and using the rationale that everyone has free will, therefore what you are doing is both voluntary and premeditated. Even worse is to tell the autistic child that he or she is committing a serious or mortal sin by doing this. Example, having panic attacks or sensory meltdowns. It is not fair or even possible, in at least most instances, for a child to put off a panic attack or a sensory meltdown until after the trip home from the grocery store or other public setting has been completed. Here's 12 signs of autism stimming, and here's our autism playlist. Okay, I'm done finally.